You mentioned Alan was the last to sign up. Wayne may have been uncomfortable with some of it. Imagine if everything you learned about MASH's cancellation was inaccurate. The tears, finale, and epic parting felt like a show cut too short. Not only was MASH canceled, after 11 successful seasons, it ended on its own terms. How come so many fans think something darker transpired behind the scenes? Tonight, we'll examine how the most subversive military comedy in TV history sneaked past the censors and killed under the guise of laughing. Start with a script so incendiary that CBS banned it. It wasn't about war or political dissent. It was around sex. Specifically, Hawkeye's sex life. Line-crossing script. Hawkeye on the Double was submitted in 1972, midway through MASH's first season. Even Hawkeye found the plot naughty. He managed 2 nurses, one day and one night, without telling them each other. Classic sitcom setup, but the twist elevated things. After discovering his 2-timing, the nurses collaborated to get revenge in the most dramatic way. Both said he got them pregnant. Both. No one. CBS cut off the cooperation like any other. CBS indicated this was the single script they would never allow, according to Larry Gelbart, who helped conceive the program. That's impressive considering this network aired episodes about combat amputations, military corruption, and troops going insane under pressure. This narrative was more about bedroom hijinks than wartime trauma, so the network balked. CBS claimed the show focused too much on the dalliance and neglected MASH's anti-war message. The early 1970s primetime audience found it too peppery. The network's message was clear. Question military authority, but don't violate the morals clause when... The strangest part is that Hawkeye's romantic life wasn't perfect in prior episodes. He flirted, charmed, and got lucky. How was this one different? It wasn't all romance. It was consequence-based. The thought of 2 women collaborating and using pregnancy as revenge. That pushed too many buttons in 1972. Almost heard the censors racing for red pencils. However, Larry Gelbart was unfazed by this refusal. The reverse happened. He later claimed that blocking this script made writers brighter, sharper, and more inventive when handling challenging subjects. Subtext, comedy, and irony were used to convey significant ideas instead of overt situations. You couldn't hit the crowd over the head anymore. Their undercover commentary improved the show. The forbidden script didn't disappear into Hollywood's vault. The MASH, Martinis, and Medicine collection included it. Many years later, fans saw the episode that CBS sought to hide on DVD. It's as bold as expected. What do you think? Would you have aired this script in '72? Did CBS have a point? Let's explain how this minor rebellion sneaked past one of history's most strictly controlled TVs. For 40 years, the F-bomb was hidden. MASH authors pulled off a sneaky maneuver decades before HD remasters and ultra-clear screens. No one saw an obscene Easter egg lurking in plain sight for 40 years. It is. Long before pause button streaming or binge watching, censors missed it. The episode is 1974's The Trial of Henry Blake from Season 2. It may be a classic MASH moment, combining sharp humor with serious themes. Here's the twist. Trapper John wrote, "Give the guard an F-gallon," somewhere in the commotion. Actually, the F word was casually scrawled on paper. Imagine this on 1970s network primetime TV. It might cancel a show instantaneously. CBS was notoriously anti-profanity, especially then. One foul word caused fear. Here, things go wild. The set decoration and murky old broadcast quality hid that line for decades. It was a sneaky joke for authors and the most observant fans. When the MASH asterisk episodes were remastered in HD in 2024, that concealed note appeared in clear. This modest gesture of defiance that went unseen for so long shocked viewers. CBS guidelines were set in stone. No vulgarity, no sexual content, no military or government criticism. However, this audacious phrase challenged the censors. Somehow, it passed. It's the perfect illustration of network execs and MASH's renegade writers playing cat and mouse. Subtle subversion was the show's specialty, never crossing the line. The network believed. Writing the word was a subtle middle finger to the system and a wink to everyone paying attention. The Gelbart team knew how far they could go without being dismissed. MASH was famous for its conflict between creative freedom and corporate restriction. Because of its storylines and method of challenging the establishment while playing by its norms. Now that you know this, did you locate the note in The Trial of Henry Blake? Most probably didn't. This concealed F-bomb is one of many TV mysteries waiting to be discovered. It raises the greater question. How many other banned jokes and lines got past the censors? Hold up. They broke other rules. The following MASH story is crazier. Listen to the joke that made on broadcast despite CBS's strict policies. You'll want to stay for that. The censors were duped. It seemed like another 4077th day. Hawkeye Pierce, who was usually 2 seconds away from his next wisecrack, was rummaging through someone's stuff when he casually dropped a phrase that should have raised network alarms. He joked, "Is this Margaret's vibrator? Easy, fast, and inappropriate." Got the joke? Here's the twist. No one did. CBS's censorship section had a simple goal. Before it reached middle American living rooms, remove anything profane or political. That was early 1970s. The word vibrator wasn't supposed to be murmured in primetime comedy, let alone joked about nationally. It was there, though, aired and repeated, time after time, because CBS missed it. How could a vibrator joke pass one of the tightest network censorship machines ever? Slang is the key. CBS suits were poor double entendre and euphemism speakers. When MASH showrunner Larry Gelbart wanted to insert some innuendo, he knew how. The key was sounding medical, he said. When wrapped in sterile clinical language or given quickly enough to blend into background discussion, a nasty joke could fly under the radar. Indeed, that happened. This strategy works beyond the vibrator line. A snug harbor is preferred by Frank Burns, an uptight figure who rumpled newly ironed clothing in another famous incident. That seems benign, even lyrical. It was a thinly veiled reference to female anatomy, which would have produced a little explosion in the CBS compliance office if found. Yet again, nobody did. Maybe they didn't grasp the humor or thought it meant something else. Ann Gelbart, just smirking from the writer's room. It's amazing that MASH didn't use these innuendos as one-time shock humor. Their strategy was larger. The show pushed network television's language, subject matter, tone, and structure restrictions. Gelbart and his colleagues believed that sneaking a risque sentence and fooling the censors would have allowed creative freedom, a peaceful uprising. Audience reaction was varied. Rerun viewers, especially younger ones, eventually understood the secret meanings decades later. Changing vocabulary, clearer context, and, let's be honest, the option to pause and rewind made folks realize how cheeky some of those lines were. MASH became even more dazzling after the revelation. Not merely a war comedy. A subversive lesson in rule bending. Recall your favorite MASH episode. A joke that made you double take, maybe one you only realized years later. In a drama about doctors fleeing bombs and bureaucracy, nothing was more perilous or satisfying than evading censors. But not all battles were won. CBS pulled one narrative before airing it due to its severity. What was it? Why was it so upsetting? CBS buried the unpatriotic plot, soldiers feigning illness to return home. CBS looked at that and said no, not under their watch, during warfare, or on one of America's biggest shows. What was presented as one episode got radioactive and never saw a camera. The premise was real, but possibly too true for prime time. Rewind to the early 1970s. CBS balanced fun and controversy throughout Vietnam's street and campus protests. The show's genius head writer and developer, Larry Gelbart, believed comedy could confront power and poke holes in war myths without sacrificing heart. Gelbart proposed a storyline in which soldiers, desperate to leave the battle zone, purposefully grow sick in the cold to be returned home. Not a joke or a punchline. That was the pitch. No enemy fire or major battlefield injuries. A very honest look at what some soldiers will do when emotionally and physically exhausted. That's what made it risky. However, CBS said no, not even close. Before any official writer's room discussion, the proposal was scrapped. Fair enough. Corporately, they were afraid. The nation was divided. The network didn't want to represent anti-war sentiment, showing American troops fake illness to avoid duty. This would have sparked treason allegations from living rooms nationwide. MASH's satire was already on point. Despite being set during the Korean War, nobody missed the Vietnam similarities. The thought of soldiers purposefully being unwell to go home crossed an unseen line. Not merely the war was questioned. Patriotism was questioned. Not just awkward for CBS, that was risky. This portion was unexpected. You can't always hide the truth by locking the script. What does a soldier owe his country after giving everything? This conflict between the network's fear and the writer's persistence shaped MASH more than any single narrative. The show was a master at censorship-defying commentary. They couldn't show soldiers getting pneumonia in snowbanks. Still, they could depict them crumbling under a pointless battle. They may show Hawkeye numbing. They could show Trapper plotting. Even the laugh track could feel static. It's crazy that one of television's most beloved shows was almost canceled due to an unpatriotic plot twist. Yet, what's wilder? MASH's biggest controversy wasn't buried. It dominated the airwaves. You may know the outcome. The end. That final show, which addressed trauma and loss, was the most watched in American history. Over 105 million watched, beyond the Super Bowl, than election coverage. Does CBS's narrative cancellation save them? Did they lose the chance to convey the show's most honest story? Would it have influenced popular sentiment or unraveled the glorified war? Or maybe it would have made some viewers outraged enough to write letters and others quiet enough to think. We move on to something more controversial. Not the CBS buried episode, but the cultural phenomenon. American television's most watched episode. This almost didn't happen. Traumatic finale twist. A TV scene still makes people halt mid-sentence, shake their heads slowly and say, wait, did that really happen on MASH? The 1983 MASH finale, Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, aired to over 106 million viewers. That show drew more viewers than some presidential elections. However, one scene shocked and scarred observers. Imagine this. Hawkeye, the wisecracking surgeon who kept it together through 11 seasons of mayhem, sits across from psychiatrist Sidney Friedman. His face is haunted and empty, no longer operating in the real world. His mental breakdown is shown as the story progresses. He told a woman to hush her chicken on a bus with Korean immigrants because its clucking could reveal their position. It wasn't chicken. It was her child. She smothered. After years of sarcasm and surgical adrenaline, the trauma surfaced. Fans were unprepared. Many still aren't. People still discuss The Sopranos' blackening or Walter White's demise. Nothing in primetime comedy went there like MASH that night. The reaction was divided. Others praised the scene for its frank look at psychological harm. Others believed the show was excessive. It was too gloomy and real. A myth crept up throughout the years, fans whispering. The ending was too much, they said. The show was canceled. We break and examine the facts here. MASH * remained. Finished on its own terms, one of the few TV shows that end at their peak. Writers, producers, and actors felt it was time. 11 seasons, 256 episodes, many operations, jokes, and heartbreaks. They wanted a meaningful goodbye. They desired closure. The baby scene, that was the emotional peak. Hawkeye's psyche unraveled as the battle did. Just because a show finishes on its own terms doesn't imply the public knows. How come many still think MASH was canceled after that scene? The power of story. Feels right. This twist is Hollywood-esque. The truth is less dramatic and more intriguing. The finale didn't startle viewers. It honored war's emotional truth. Our laughter, tears, and suffering were filtered through Hawkeye. He was naked in his final moments. Viewer outrage persisted. Letters flooded in. Critics questioned tone. Was it still funny to make people cry? That's the true question, right? Is this comic scene too dark? Never simply a comedy, MASH *, Trojan horse. Behind the spam and latrine jokes was a show that examined conflict, morality, and human cost. The ending maintained its tone. It was revealed last. The last mask falls. Still, decades later, we murmur about the infant on the bus and wonder if the show crossed a boundary or told the truth too clearly. It stuck either way. Changed what television could do and express. This is a huge legacy for a laugh track sitcom. Why do some claim MASH was canceled? The post-MASH cancellation plot. You're not alone in thinking MASH ended well. It ended in 1983 with Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. This scripted TV show had over 100 million viewers, making it the most watched in U.S. history. That final moment was etched in pop culture. Not really, MASH continued. Not entirely. It went on, but nobody talked about it, because 2 years later, CBS tried to ride the wave longer. After MASH continued with Colonel Potter, Klinger, and Father Mulcahy. Back in the U.S., they work in a veterans hospital. The war ended, thinner laughs, but the stakes, less violent, more emotional. The audience didn't buy it. Here's the suspicious part. After MASH did poorly because it aired against the A-Team. Trying to compete with Mr. T and EPM was a losing battle from the start. Season 2 ratings dropped. A decent ratings grab quickly became a broadcast slow-motion automobile accident. CBS, not wanting to embarrass itself, ended the show before the last episode aired. That final episode was named Wet Feet. Never heard of it? It's not your fault. Wet Feet never aired in America. This episode was a ghost for 30 years, talked about by die-hard fans but otherwise overlooked. What happened in Wet Feet? Why did CBS block it? What we know. After his first marriage ended in heartbreak, Klinger reconsiders a second. Not a crazy idea. Indeed, it sounds typical, feeling melancholy and bittersweet. Nothing about it seems problematic. But the context? CBS sought a fresh start due to falling ratings. However, current YouTubers and digital sleuths believe there was more. They note that after MASH began exploring post-war trauma topics as audiences dwindled. Vet mental health, PTSD, Virginia bureaucracy failure. Not just punchlines, indictments. CBS may have feared advertisers or government pressure by delving into America's dirty laundry with its eccentric series. It becomes murkier here. After MASH clips resurfaced online, sometimes muddled. YouTubers combined Wet Feet with MASH's conclusion, spreading rumors that CBS withheld MASH. See Raw finale. You see thumbnails like CBS's prohibited MASH conclusion or this terrible sequence that ended the franchise. Quite the contrary. Wet Feet were the conclusion to a sequel nobody knew existed, not MASH, yet that conspiracy prevails. Perhaps it soothes a deeper itch. We all feel like something wasn't resolved. That MASH, all its humor and compassion, never fully conveyed war's psychic toll. Aftermath and Wet Feet were blamed. Possibly the sacrificed lamb. Something was responsible for the quiet. 30 years after its cancellation, Wet Feet premiered in 2016 to a very emotional response. Viewers weren't mad. More like seeing a memory revived and displayed. It wasn't innovative but hauntingly slow-burning. Felt it. Now for the real question. Did terrible TV bury Wet Feet? Maybe it hit too close to home? Ever seen Aftermash? Tell the truth. Did it merit the vitriol? Or was it too early in all the wrong ways? The unknown cat and mouse. The true scandal. MASH beat CBS for a decade. While viewers laughed at Hawkeye's witty jokes and Radar's teddy bear, the show's writers quietly rebelled against television's largest gatekeepers. And CBS? Not even half was caught. Beyond the crazy operations and synthetic laughter, Massachusetts. SH writers were playing a long game, a deliberate network censor-based cat-and-mouse game, beginning with the basics. MASH. Asterisk aired 11 seasons, quadruple the Korean War's length. It began as satire but quickly changed, a bandaged Trojan horse. The jokes were never pure, they distracted. CBS was fixated on something. Defending Americans against obscenity. Words like virgin, not war. You heard right. Amputated limbs and war death images were carelessly shown in primetime, but basic human biology had to be explained. The phrase blood everywhere? Fine. No one should say virgin. One word nearly derailed 1983. The writers suggested The Moon is Not Blue, a parody of the 1953 racy film The Moon is Blue, which was controversial for using the word virgin. Hawkeye and BJ tried to get a hotter copy of that movie in the MASH episode. It wasn't. That was the whole objective. By dragging CBS's doppelganger, the writers mocked censorship's absurdity.